I'll just give it one more minute for everyone to come in. Right. Good morning, kia ora, and welcome to our quarterly Isap update. Thank you so much for joining us today. Today we have a really jam-packed agenda, so we are going to try and move things through reasonably quickly. But before we kick off and get into the slide pack, I'd just like to welcome Jane Nichols, our General Manager of Industry Engagement, Dr. Kerry Griffiths, our IS Technical Director, and Lorraine Blackwood, our Head of Ratings and Delivery, who will all be presenting to you today. If we just move on to the next slide, please. I'd like to start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the country in which we're meeting today. I acknowledge their deep connection to land, water and culture, and pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging. I myself am joining you from Camaragal land of the Eora Nation. Today, as I said, we have a jam-packed agenda. We're going to start with a little bit of an update overall for the organisation, then moving into membership training and events, a ratings update, and then finally a technical update from Dr. Kerry Griffith. We will then open up for questions. I'm anticipating we'll have about 10 to 15 minutes for questions and look forward to hearing from you. If we could just move to the next slide, please. So in terms of our organisation, we are in the midst of an evolution of our organisation, and a very exciting one at that. It really has been the combination of a number of years as we've moved through the IS version 2.1 review and starting to look at our continuous improvement process for the rating scheme. But in the background, we've started to digitalise our internal systems and are now turning our attention to starting to digitalise the IS rating scheme. The first piece of the IS rating scheme we're digitalising is a materials calculator. In fact, we're quite reasonably well progressed with a proof of concept anticipated next week to look at having our first digitalised materials calculator in the market no later than the end of February. If you'd like to know more about that adventure or our digitalisation adventure more broadly, I'm more than happy to answer any questions. In terms of some of the things you might have noticed as a part of that journey, you will have noticed our new website, which got launched with our new brand, but also the update to our learning platform. We have embarked on a learning management system in the background, and that is also where our ISAP resources are housed, and I believe Kerry will be talking to that more further down the track. In terms of IS version 2.1, IS version 2.1 became available for the market to register on the 1st of September. It was and is the last time we will drop a large change in the design and as-built manual. We have been working very hard to set up a continuous improvement process, which will see us start to iterate our rating scheme credit by credit rather than massive step changes in the market. I really want to thank everybody who was involved in the review of IS version 2.1 and also supporting in ensuring that we brought a great product to market. So thank you all very much for your participation. And I also encourage you to start engaging with 2.1 as much as possible. As I said, we are going to bounce through a broader perspective. Sorry, we are going to start bouncing through the broader pack. If you do have any questions, please throw them into chat or into the Q&A function, and we will either endeavour to answer them on the fly or we will deal with them in the Q&A session at the end. With that in mind, I'd like to hand over to Jane Nichols to talk about membership training and events.
Thank you, Pat, and great to have you all with us. Thank you for joining us this morning. Lauren, I might just get you to move into our first slide. It's a fabulous slide, this one, since our last ISAP update. So about 3 months ago, we've introduced, or welcomed, should I say, 20 new members to the organisation, and right across the value chain, and some very high profile organisations joining us. We are delighted to have you all as part of the journey that we're on with infrastructure sustainability. So thank you for your commitment to participating in that journey. I'd like to just give you a quick update on what's going on in respect to the engagement agenda, and I can only say it is incredibly full. It's been a year that I don't need to describe to any of you with respect to the impact of COVID on planning, and in fact in respect to our annual ISC Connect Conference and Gala Awards. We have been moving from date to date, trying to work out what to do, and finally decided, as I'm sure you would respect, we've moved the conference and the Gala Awards into early 2022 to March the 2nd and 3rd. It will be held at Dalton House, Darling Island in Sydney, and the theme sitting around it is our decade of opportunity, positive futures for people, the planet and the economy. I'm pleased to say that our prospectus will be out very shortly. We'd expect to have that out next week, and it will be a really detailed guide on how to participate, and in addition to some of the opportunities to sponsor, which many of you would have seen with our previous prospectus. We have in fact added a substantial number of additional opportunities to the original. So please take a look for that, and I look forward to speaking to many of you about it. For those of you who have already got sponsorship bookings in place for what was the original October date, they will automatically roll over into the March conference. The Gala Awards are bigger and bolder than ever, and they will be held on the night of March the 2nd at Dalton House also, and we'll be coming out to you very shortly with the all aspects of how you participate, the judging criteria, and in fact the timeline, so that you can get yourselves organised prior to Christmas. An event registration will open in October. I'd like to now just have a quick chat about the ISAP events that we've got coming up shortly. So first of all, we've got our major national ISAP day will be held on the Tuesday prior to the Connect conference, so Tuesday, March the 1st. The location will be in Sydney, but it won't be at Dalton House, and we'll be providing details on all of that for you in November, and we'd be delighted to discuss any specific content requests that you may have. I can't promise you that we'll be able to do everything, but if you are speaking with your IS project manager, please don't hesitate to put forward any ideas that you might have. We're pleased to say that because the National ISAP Day will be falling in March, we're also introducing some regional ISAP events prior to Christmas. Apart from WA, they will be webinar format. In WA, it will be a face-to-face event on Thursday, November 11. Wednesday, November 24, we'll be conducting a webinar, an ISAP Day webinar in Victoria, or for Victoria and South Australia, and Wednesday, December 15 for Queensland. Sally, I might just get you to pop up a poll for us. We'd like to get a bit of a sense on how likely you're to attend one of the ISAP days. In fact, actually, we've made this specific to the March event, whether you're highly likely, unsure, needing a bit more information, or unlikely. So if you can all respond, that would be great. Just moving around a little bit. You'll see that you need some more information, which is not surprising. That should be about it. Sally, do you want to just, we've got the results there. So it looks like at the moment, nearly 30% of you are highly likely to attend, 50% looking for a bit more information, which we appreciate, and 22% unlikely at this stage. Okay, thank you. Thank you for that indication of your interest. Okay, you will have noticed that at each of the forums, we like to give you a bit of an update on our work in the capability space. It's a very important priority for us, and we've certainly upgraded what we're doing in this space, both in terms of the delivery modes, and the course content has become much wider. So whether your aim as an individual is to really maintain your technical skills exclusively, whether you're looking to explore more skills across a wider capability set, or whether your organisation as a whole is wanting to embed sustainability across the wider organisation, we've certainly now got opportunities for you to access. I would just like to mention as part of this that IS4 accredited professionals, the renewal period closes this week, September 30. So I encourage you, for those of you who have not, committed some time to doing your renewal, you do need to do that prior to the end of this week. In terms of who needs to renew, it's anyone who was accredited prior to April 2021. There are late fees for those of you who don't do this at the right time. The fees we've noted at the base of the page, so please don't, we don't want to see you ending up needing to do that. We'd rather, if you could let us know your intent, that would be great. If you are part of a company renewal, all you need to do is speak to the person within your organisation who has set that up, and they will provide you with the link to the renewal exam. If you're renewing as an individual, all you need to do is go to the ISC website, pay and register via the learning page. Thank you. In terms of ISV 2.1 Unwrapped, we have had extraordinary response to this. We're really delighted. It is, as many of you would know by now, it's a hybrid course. It includes online modules and also a 4-hour facilitated workshop. Once you have completed those modules and the exam, that will enable you to implement an ISV 2.1 rating. And I need to stress that you do need that requirement, that accreditation, in order to access the ISV 2.1 rating. You'll see that the October courses are largely full at this point. But there are courses running right through to February. So please, would you register your interest and book in your dates. I would say to you, if you can't attend, you've booked in, but you can't attend with 72 hours notice, we're happy to just take out your booking, but non-attendance without advice after that 72-hour period will attract a cancellation, or a non-attendance, I should say, fee of $180. So once again, we're not looking to do that. We really want you to make sure that you book in, attend, or we'll help you sort out a new date. Thank you. And then very briefly, you'll all receive this pack following today's webinar. But just to remind you, there are courses now on sustainable procurement, implementing sustainability change. With sustainability change, we do those courses upon an expression of interest, but there are dates, the 3rd and the 5th of November, for sustainable procurement at this stage. We've also got IS Essentials and sustainable finance coming up. In terms of wider leadership capabilities, these courses, IS for managers and IS for executives, are actually delivered in-house upon expression of interest. And wherever possible, we look to customise these a little to suit your particular circumstance to ensure that we can support you in taking your organisation on the sustainability journey. We also are now able to develop bespoke offerings with you, so please don't hesitate to talk to us if you would like us to create something that is a little more unique for your organisation. And certainly we're always looking for feedback on additional courses that you'd like to potentially access in the future. We would be delighted to work on those and see if we can't respond to all of your needs. I won't go through this today, but as I said, in the pack that you'll receive following today's webinar, we do list the learning offerings available, the delivery mode, and all of the pricing and participation that's required to make the course viable. Thank you. And if I could now hand over to Lorraine Blackwood, our Head of Ratings and Delivery. Thanks, Lorraine.
Thank you very much, Jane. Hi there, everyone. Yes, Lorraine Blackwood here. I will firstly apologise. I'm having a slight technical hitch and I have lost the ability to use my lovely new ISK screen background, so apologies on that front. But yes, I'm a fairly recent addition to the IS Council, and so this is my first ISAP forum on the other side of the fence, so to speak. But I'm very pleased to share with you a roundup of the latest news on the ratings front. Starting with our current stats, we have 199 projects on the books, covering a capex value of a phenomenal $203 billion. The majority of these projects, as we can see here, predominantly road and rail, and the majority are on the east side of Australia. However, we have seen and continue to experience continued growth and an increase in uptake across asset types and geographies, including a steady climb in New Zealand. To the next one, please. Okay, so here we have the new registrations that have come on board since the last forum, and welcome to those of you working on these projects. I won't go through them all line by line, but you know, as I mentioned, growth continues in New Zealand, and the bulk are in New South Wales. So 18 newer registrations there. And we also have 3 pilot ratings underway, trialling our draft IS Essentials manual, which has been mentioned and which Kerry will go into on more detail after my slides. Okay, so this increased in demand for uptake in the ratings scheme means the ratings team is upsizing to reflect this, and we are delighted to have welcomed on board just last week a new project manager, Giovanni Negroni. An excellent addition to our team. He has an engineering background and joins us with project management experience in the utilities and manufacturing sectors. And Giovanni is Melbourne based, and I just extend a welcome on board to him. And to reflect significant growth in Queensland, we've also just recently recruited a further project management position who'll be based in Brisbane, joining us next month, and we'll look forward to introducing her in due course. Thanks. Okay, so as well as internal recruitment, we've also welcomed on board 11 new recruits to our verifier panel. We do recognise that with the large number of projects going through the rating process, the availability of verifiers can be a bit of a bottleneck. So firstly, a massive shout out to all of our current verifiers for working with us to accommodate such high project volumes. but we do see this additional verifier resource as taking a lot of pressure off of current workloads and, you know, helping to maintain an efficient turnaround. So the new recruits are currently shadowing our existing verifiers to help them get fully up to speed before we begin allocating them to their own projects to verify in their own capacity. Okay. Okay, sorry, I was also just going to mention on the previous slide, Kerry is going to touch on IS Essentials in a moment, but we do have some verifiers recruited, well, ready to be onboarded as IS Essentials verifiers once the Essentials scheme is up and running and we have the verification approach confirmed there. So watch this space on that front. And a final piece on verifiers for now. We have recently launched verifier principles. So these have been shared with our verifier panel and are accessible to all via our online Isap resources. The intent of these is to provide a clear, consistent approach to verification, and we hope that sharing, documenting these principles supports that wider process and helps make it more transparent to all. Okay, thanks, Lauren. After verification comes certification. So here we have some recent project successes. A massive well done and congratulations to the projects featured here. Some just fantastic results here, delivering superb sustainable outcomes, which we really are keen to celebrate and promote. I'm sure you'll all have noticed the significant improvement on our website and content. Our email newsletters and social media presence have all been much increased and improved. So we will be doing a lot more to share best practices and project highlights, and look forward to working with you all to develop and share these. Okay, and so speaking of website updates, I'll move on to some updates to our Isap resources. So in light of our renaming and the rebranding and the launch of version 2.1, we've made quite a few changes to our supporting tools. So firstly, the submission guidelines have had an overhaul. This document, roughly 40 odd pages, full of top tips and guidance, taking you through the ratings process and helping make sure you get the best quality submission you possibly can, to do justice to all the hard work and effort that goes into your ratings assessment. But if I could highlight just one takeaway point for you all, and that is to refer to the submission quality checklist, which is one page in the document covering off all the key requirements for making sure the quality of your submission really hits the mark. So we've also refreshed the IS management plan template, and also in development in a similar fashion to the verifier principles, we've been looking at ISAP and assessor principles. The majority of the content is consistent with the verifier principles, around the setting of incorrect precedent, for instance. But we're also looking to include content on really recognising and upholding the value of the sustainability profession. So again, watch the space for news on these in the coming weeks. Okay, so I think that's for my slide content. Thank you, and over to Dr. Kerry Griffiths for the technical update.
Thanks, Lorraine. Hi, everybody. Great to be with you this morning, I think maybe in Australia, and this afternoon in New Zealand. So kia ora to everyone in Aotearoa. I just wanted to provide an update on a number of topics that we've already touched on in the presentation, but just more from a technical perspective. So if I can go to the first slide, that'd be great. We've already mentioned the release of version 2.1. As you all know, it's now released and available. Registration started from the 1st of September this year. I wanted to point out from an ISAP point of view what the resources were, and particularly some of the additional resources that are available in 2.1. The technical manual, clearly, and this is from the a snip of what's on the ISAP resources page. And it's also available in the ebook. Those of you who haven't had a look yet, by all means do go in and investigate that, because I think you'll all agree that the ability to navigate through the manual has been enhanced extensively through that, with a number of not just being able to kind of find different sections, but being able to kind of go through to, say, the guidelines that are attached or associated with a particular credit, etc. But also there on that resources page are a number of guidelines. And for those who are not yet as familiar with version 2.0 or 2.1, there are some associated guidelines that we don't have at 1.2. So things like the climate and natural hazard risks guideline, the energy and carbon guideline. These are a couple of the ones that have been added, and along with other familiar guidelines that that you'll be aware of. So the materials calculator, for example, the innovation challenge appendix, etc. So there's a number of supporting guidance to the technical manual that's all listed there on the ISAP resources page. And then up, as you can see in the top right hand corner, and this appears in a similar place on the ISAP's page, is the link to other resources that are also relevant to undertaking a verification. And these are common across all of our rating schemes. So for example, the submission guidelines that were just mentioned by Lorraine, there's also case study guidelines that outline how to put together a case study, and that has been updated. It has a new case study template, or a more streamlined case study template involved there. There's also the release of the guidance for the development of BAU assumptions, and I'll talk to that a little bit later. Verified principles, the management plan, materials LCA guidance. So a number of resources. The rulings are also highlighted there, and I'll talk a little bit about the new rulings that we've got coming up shortly. Also, just a reminder to people, if you weren't aware of this, perhaps you weren't an assessor at the time that it was launched, but we also have the COVID-19 disruption plan. If you're working on a project and there is disruption to that project and some of your activities are required under credits, then there is a possibility of perhaps proposing alternative approaches that fit better with the constraints that you're working in. And if you are going to use that, that's something that needs to be approved at the IS Council prior to going to submission. So it's something that if you want to use it, you should get onto it now. Talk to your IS project manager, they can help you through that process. So we're very excited about 2.1. We're pleased to have it out there in the market and available to you to review, look at, and to use. And on that note, we're going to run a poll just to assess your intentions around 2.1, whether you're planning to use 2.1 on a project this financial year. Are you planning to swap to 1.2 for 2.1 credits in the next 6 months, or potentially A and B of those? So it's just to give us an indication of where you're at, and I'm sure that a number of you have already taken the 2.1 unwrapped, which is exciting to see the great enrolments that we've had for that, as Jane mentioned earlier. So thanks for that. It's really good to get those results, and if we can share that now, Sally or Lauren, that's fantastic. So we can see here that there's 18%, so that's exciting. In this financial year are going to be using it. 32% are looking to swap 1.2 credits for 2.1. So that's going to be a great opportunity and way for you to become familiar with the credit so that you're ready to take on a full 2.1 project in the future, and some that are going to do both. So really great. Those of you who aren't doing that yet, you know, there's we'll learn from those who are the kind of front runners. That'll be a learning experience from us all, and then look forward to being able to take those next steps together. So thanks for that. We'll move on to the next slide. So IS Essentials, that were mentioned a couple of times already, I think, Lorraine. Just an update for IS Essentials, as we've talked about before, I think, on the forum, that IS Essentials is being run as a pilot currently. We currently have 4 pilot projects that have kicked off in using the draft technical manual. We're running an iterative development process with feedback between the pilot projects and the development team. And we've got several others that are preparing to start. We're also still continuing to onboard pioneer partners, so those who are keen to have IS Essentials and be part of the pilot to help us to really make that the best possible tool. So if you're interested, by all means do get in touch with your IS project manager or others, or directly to Tom Young. Tom is one of our project managers. He's based in New Zealand, and he is the project manager for a number of the pilot projects. So we're into the 2nd draft already of the technical manual, and by the end of the year, we're probably looking to have a 3rd draft. So as you can see, this is a really iterative learning process, and reflective a little of what Patrick referred to earlier in terms of our aim to be running a continuous improvement, iterative development process as we move forward. LOC Consulting are assisting with the development of IS Essentials. I guess I'd say that's also reflective of some of our future development, that while we manage the projects very clearly within the IS Council, we are keen to, for some of these bigger projects, be working with support partners who can help us to move that forward at pace and make sure that we're then getting these tools into the market where they can achieve the outcomes that we're all keen for them to achieve. So next slide, thanks. Rulings, I mentioned rulings earlier in terms of the availability of those on the Isap resources page. We've been focused just recently on making sure that we're updating rulings on a more predictable and consistent basis. So what you're going to start to see is that we'll probably be releasing our rulings, updated rulings, once a month. That's if we have rulings, and we generally do have a couple that are general rulings that get added, and particularly when we are looking at 1.2, 2.1, we have planning ratings, ops ratings, and design and as-built. So it's likely that we may have some rulings that are available as general rulings for the whole of the community to consider, and in some cases will need to adopt. But we'll be updating and releasing monthly. In the last quarter, we've had 2 versions or revisions of the rulings, so 36 and 37. As Jane said earlier, I'm not going to take us through all the details here, but this provides a reference point when you get the pack that'll come out to you. I just wanted to highlight, though, some of the items that were covered in the most recent rulings. Land 4, so Land 4 for version 1.2, we have a revised credit that's been released, and that came out in the most recent set of rulings. The ruling for that Land 4 is available for use. We also have attached to Land 4 an innovation challenge. So there's, I think, half a point of my memory serves me right, that is attached to the piloting or using Land 4 and then providing us with feedback on this new credit. We had extensive consultation on the development of this. We had subject matter experts involved, as well as broader consultation with members, assessors, verifiers. So we believe that we've landed on something that's really going to deliver good outcomes in the flooding. It's a flooding area, and we'd be keen for your participation and feedback on that. Also in the rulings, the guidance on the development of BAU assumptions. This is a guidance document that's been in the pipeline for some time. And what it does is provides you with a clear requirements in developing your BAU assumptions and the BAU assumptions you use for your base case for the energy, water, and materials credits. Really gives you an outline of what's expected, what the hierarchy of choosing assumptions are, making sure that assumptions are current, up to date, and reflect current practice. So some very clear guidelines in there, and for anybody who is developing a base case currently or is about to start work on a newly registered project, then I would encourage you to take a strong look at those, because there are some clear requirements now that are outlined in that guidance document. Innovation. In the last 3-4 months, we have had a focused work plan around the innovation credit. So there are a number of changes that you will have seen in previous versions of the rulings, but also in these most recent ones. So there are changes to the exceeding benchmarks innovation pathway, and also to the not necessarily changes, but there's more clarity that's been developed around the evidence that's required for a first innovation. So whether it's a national, a world, national, or state or regional first. So again, just providing more clarity so that you're prepared for your submission, and that you, if you're claiming a first, then you're able to demonstrate that effectively to the verifiers. The materials calculator, we now have one materials calculator. As you see when you go into the Isap resources page, the older ones are still available for projects who already had started and were well underway with doing their work in the materials area. But if you're going into a new project and you're just starting doing your base case, then the materials calculator now in play can be applied both in 1.2, 2.0 or 2.1 projects. And finally, Land 3, which is the contaminated materials credit under 1.2. There has been some work done on the low materiality pathway, again, just to get some clarity of questions that we've had to deal with, or queries, TCs sometimes that have come in from projects. And then also a number of issues that's highlighted through our continuous improvement process. So when you're, just re-emphasising that when you as a project are developing a TC or a CIR, all of that gets captured by us, as well as responding to your particular requirements. That informs our ongoing improvement, and the land free updates and new rulings are reflective of that. I just wanted to also highlight that there is an update to the 1.2 Innovation Challenging Credit Guidance, and that outlines for you that swapping of 1.2 with 2.1 credits. So all the information on that's available on your Isap resources page, and there's a ruling attached to that as well. Great, so we can move on. And finally, I just wanted to re-emphasise, I think Patrick had it on his slide around working groups. The technical working groups, we have now established a new approach to our technical working groups. We're very excited about this and look forward to them being active and in play next year. So there's 6 different groups as outlined: a proponent group, and then a group for each of the rating schemes, and then also a sustainable materials group. And there are terms of reference that are available on the website. It was also broadcast through LinkedIn, but information on the website to tell you more about it, with all of the terms of reference associated. And we really encourage people to take a look at that. And if you are interested and want to be actively working on helping us with our continuous improvement process, from a technical point of view, then I'd encourage you to take a good look at that, and either yourself or others that you feel would be in a good position to support what we're aiming to achieve with the technical working groups, which is outlined there around supporting development and providing guidance on benchmarks and technical development, applications at the end of June, the end of October this year, and then scheduled to kick off early in the new year. So thanks for that, and as I say, I'd encourage you to take a good look at it, and it's just another way you can participate in this broader community of practice. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much, Kerry. It was absolutely amazing. Probably following on from Kerry's update on the technical working groups, in the coming few months, we will also be going out to start our advocacy working groups, with the first working group for advocacy looking particularly at climate action and net zero. So stay tuned for that expression of interest as well. With that in mind, I think we might move into question time, and there were a couple asked during the presentation. So I might just throw firstly, I might just ask Lorraine and Jane to come back on camera. And I might first throw to you, Lorraine, which is the IS submission guidelines generic or specific to the version 2 rating tools, i.e. can it be used for 1.2? Oh, you're on mute there.
Hi. Oh, here we go. Yes, it covers both versions. Yes, 1.2, 2.1.
Fantastic, thank you. And I might just quickly respond to Kat. That's great to see you on the line, Kat. Yes, the conference, our annual conference, will be a hybrid event. And Jane, I might just get you to talk briefly to what the thinking is there, sure, if you can.
Yes, so Kat and everybody, we certainly will be doing it as a hybrid event. We know that whether it's for COVID reasons or for distance that's required to travel, that this is a really good option. It worked for us very well in May. So absolutely, the ticket prices will reflect whether you're coming in virtually or whether you're coming in as a face-to-face attendee.
That's great. Thank you, Jane. And Jane, I might throw to you one last time. We had a question around a New Zealand Isap Day. Just want to talk about the fact that what we showed then was for the next few months, but what the thinking is for next year.
Sure. Yes, we are definitely doing an Isap Day in New Zealand, specifically in the 2022 year. We've got our May conference coming up in New Zealand, and that will include an ISAP event, but we'll also do potentially another smaller event later in the year to make sure that our technical teams can get together and really explore the issues that you're dealing with at any point in time.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Jane. Just looking at the Q&A. Sorry, my Q&A seems to have gone a bit pear-shaped on me. Let me get back to it. And Sonia Dong, Jane, this is another one for you. You're on fire today. So Jane, not sure if I missed it, but was the IS Unwrapped course also required for projects just swapping out 1.2 credits, or only for projects targeting 2.1 as a whole?
It's actually required for all projects.
Yeah.
So the accreditation, it's critical that you go through your accreditation. It is a requirement.
I think it's also really important to point out here that we are offering this course until February for free. And that's really to support you as accredited professionals and as assessors upskill to make sure that you're ready to take on 2.1. Whilst the rating process hasn't changed significantly, version 2.1 does represent quite a significant change in the way you approach the manual. So I really do encourage you to engage. Kerry, do you want to build on that?
I'm good, thanks.
All right, no problems, thank you. And then we have another one from Andrew McLennan. Kerry, this one's for you. I'm unclear on the LAN 4.03 ruling in version 37 of the IS rulings. If the new LAN 4 credit is mandatory for new projects, why is there an innovation challenge associated with it?
Great, thanks for that, Andrew. As you will all know, that we don't have any mandatory credits as such within a scheme, so people can pick and choose which ones that they're doing. But because this is but if you're choosing to do LAN 4, which you'd have to do the new one if you were choosing to do it and you're a new project. What we would like to do is to get some feedback from you on that. And so in order to use that feedback, we've added the opportunity to participate in an innovation challenge, which would give you an extra half point for doing that. And we would then require you to provide us with feedback and to have a meeting with us and give us feedback on the use of that credit. You don't have to do that. You could do LAN 4 without doing the innovation challenge. It's not a requirement, but if you want to participate and provide feedback to us on your use of the credit, then you get that opportunity to be rewarded for it.
Great. Thank you very much, Kerry. We might just give it one more minute. We don't have any further questions, which I'll just give everyone a minute in case there are any. But otherwise, I think we will be wrapping up a tad bit early. But I would like to say thank you very much, Jane, Kerry, and Lorraine, for the updates. It's greatly appreciated, and thank you all for attending today. I appreciate it is a very busy time in the infrastructure sector. And we really do hope you got a lot of value out of today. Please make sure you complete the online survey as you sign out of this event. It really helps us improve our performance and ensure that we're addressing your concerns and needs more effectively. But thank you so much all for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you soon, hopefully in 3D.
Thanks, everybody.